Hello, Ben Lister here again. This is episode 33 of the Chatbox podcast. And my interview with Luke Live. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to another Chatterbox podcast. It's episode 33 here today. Right, let's crack on. As you know, each week I have a guest to talk about their career or job. As you know, let's crack on with this week's guest. It's broadcaster Luke Davis, or Luke Live as you like to call him on Facebook. Hello, Luke. Welcome along.
Hello, Ben. I should just point out it's actually live, Luke.
Live, Luke. Sorry.
That's okay.
How are you today?
I'm actually not too bad, to be frank. It's been it's been an interesting few days. I can't complain. Weather has it's certainly changed a lot here in Cardiff, but you know what it is with Wales? It's certainly, well, it's not Wales without the weather. That's what I'll just say.
That's nice. You've been down to Cardiff Bay recently.
Well, yes. I've do you know, it's because I used to work down there, but I haven't actually been down to Cardiff Bay for about 2 weeks. Nevertheless, here I am today, back home in my home studio in Little Clinician, as we should say.
That's good. 5 questions about broadcasting, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good to me.
You ready to rumble in the jungle?
Oh, indeed.
Let's go for it. Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
Well, my broadcast career began back in around, I think it was 2011. This is at a point where I'm 17 and I didn't really know what I wanted to go into. I'd always had this passion of having some sort of entertainment background in me. I mean, I'd varied throughout over what did I want to be. I mean, being young and about knee high, I wanted to be a historian, funny enough, because I loved history. Then it was afterwards I got a little bit bored of history. I wanted to be an animator because I loved stuff like Wallace and Gromit and anything Aardman's did. And it was basically, I just wanted something to do that was fun. And even though acting had been a passion for me that I'd always wanted to go into, I just remember thinking to myself, I don't really want to be an actor, because whilst it's fun, you know, I was never getting really, I mean, a part is a part in a play, put it that way. But I was just thinking, maybe not go down the acting road, but what else could I go into? And I'd been fascinated by radio because I had listened to it growing up in the car, but I was never actually that serious about maybe starting a radio journey. So I remember our neighbor actually said, well, why don't you get into hospital radio? So I decided, well, okay, let's give it a try, see what it's like. And that's where I really started my journey off. Because of basically, the thing with hospital radio is, what I've noticed is that they only allow people over the age of 18 to have a show or to become a member, volunteer. If you're under the age of 18, you've got to have parental consent or consent from a volunteer to join. So I did a couple of shows in and out, should we say, with Radio Glamorgan. And I remember just being fascinated, thinking, how is this, how do you do all of this? So that was really my first love into radio, I could say. I mean, going back, actually, I mean, people would often say, well, what radio station do you listen to growing up? And I'd say, well, Red Dragon and Real Radio. I was never really a fan of current Radio 1 as it stands today, even though, I mean, I know a few people and I've chatted to a couple of the controllers about it all, and respect them for what they did. But I think the stations that I'd listened to a lot were Irish radio stations like RTE, Radio 1 and 2 FM, and another one called Classic Hits 4 FM, and hearing these great DJs like Larry Gogan and Pat Kenny do, their broadcasts. So that's really how my interest to start off in radio came in. So I've been with Radio Glamorgan since then, 2011. And then I started moving into a youth radio station called Radio Platform, which I'll talk a little bit about maybe just a little bit later on.
Fair enough. And it's good that you started out there, and it's good that you started your career very excitedly. And it's good that you've listened around and seen your inspirations at work.
Oh, completely. And it's something that I said, hospital radio, I think, is a great starting point for anyone who wants to go into the industry. And I mean, okay, I might be going a little bit ahead of myself here, but I have had setbacks, but I learned from the setbacks. So then I decided, but with Radio Platform, Radio Platform was basically, it was a youth radio station that I just sort of had accidentally fallen into when I bumped into an old friend from school, and I said, well, what are you doing nowadays? And he said, oh, I'm running a youth radio station. Do you fancy joining us? So I thought, well, let's go and have a look at it and see what it's like. And then I was there for a good, shall we say, 4 years on and off, to which I progressed to broadcast assistant there in December of 2019. And I've been heavily involved with the station during the pandemic, keeping it alive and kicking. And then that, of course, led on to Retro Sound.
Nice. Question 2. Who were your inspirations in broadcasting when you were growing up?
Well, if we're going to talk locally, my inspiration was someone called Jason Harold, who used to do the breakfast show on Red Dragon. Him and Emma Hignett, who I used to listen to religiously on the way growing up. Others were Chris Moore. I mean, Chris Moore, even though he was on when I was actually in school, he did a fantastic show. It was regarded the most listened to show in Wales. That he was another inspiration, but I think for me, the biggest broadcaster would have to be Terry Wogan, and Terry Wogan was just a god in what he broadcast. I mean, he would interact with that one listener, that one individual. His breakfast show was just magic to my ears. And then other names include people like Simon Bates, if we go all the way back, Neil Fox, and actually a couple of two others are both Matt and Polly, who also did the breakfast show on Capital South Wales, but that was when I was maybe just a little bit older.
And also, you also need to think about as well, I forgot his name, who's from Wales, I think Jason Mohammed, is it?
Oh, yes, Jace, yes, so completely.
Is it Jason Mohammed?
It's Jason Mohammed, yes. Yeah, Jason Mohammed, who currently does mid-mornings. Well, I shouldn't say mid-mornings because it's kind of, well, I suppose it is mid-mornings in a sense. He does mornings on BBC Radio Wales Mondays to Wednesdays, and then he's on Radio 2 on Sunday mornings.
He had Stephanie Hurst the other week.
He did, yes.
And yeah, it's good that. Do you listen to him on Radio Wales, Jason Mohammed? Then.
Now and then, because his show's a bit political, and I'm sort of more I like the entertainment side of radio more than the politics side of radio. I mean, I'll listen to politics radio now and then, but most of the time it's more music and chat.
Yeah. I used to listen to religiously in the morning the Chris Evans breakfast show.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
On Radio 2.
And his show was a godsend as well.
I used to like Chris Evans until he became a bit of a big head, no offence. until he became a bit full of himself.
I see. Okay.
If you get what I mean.
I get what you mean, but like I
I
said,
don't mind Zoe Ball.
yeah, no, I no, quite, yes, yeah, understandable. And I be honest, I've never met either two of them, so I couldn't really comment. But yeah, I see your point.
And then he ended up at Virgin Radio, which is now at the top of the News UK tower, where Talk Radio, Talk Sport, Times Radio's based, and a couple of Virgin radio stations, because they got a new Virgin radio station as well.
They have, yes.
Virgin Pride, I think. And you also come onto the legends like Tony Blackburn as well.
You do, yes.
And like I say, Tony is one of the people at the top of my list to interview, because he'd have some stories to tell about the old Radio 1 pirate ship days.
He would, yes.
And also what drives you to be what presenter got you into radio? Which presenter helped you into radio?
That's a good question. I mean, no one's really asked me that before. I think it was Terry Wogan from listening to his breakfast show on Radio 2 and just loving the format. He'd present, that one interacting with that one individual, but then I was also, pushed very, very lovingly as well by the team we had at Radio Glamorgan, who encouraged me to continue what I was doing. As well as that, I think, people like Matt and Polly as well on Capital South Wales. I mean, I remember going into the Capital studio down in Cardiff Bay to watch them do their breakfast show, and how encouraging they were, telling me what I needed to do in order to get into the industry. And yeah, I just think, it's whoever you're around, they're very supportive in what you want to do.
Does Capital South Wales still exist?
It does, yes.
Does it still have the 3 hours of output like we do in the UK?
It does, yes.
With Polly and is it?
No, it's now Josh and Callie who do it, because Polly has gone over to Radio X and Matt is now in charge of Capital South Wales.
What's the difference between Capital Wales and Capital South Wales?
So I assume when you say Capital Wales, you mean Capital Cymru.
Yeah, but I call it Capital Wales just because with Cymru.
That's okay, Ben. So Capital Cymru is basically it's basically what they opt in for is 12 hours a day of Welsh language content. So they've got no Capital presenters from London. It's all their presenters. It's Welsh language based, so the speech is all in Welsh language. The music varies between current top 40 English language tunes and Welsh language music. And Welsh language music here has got its own big following because we have our own festival called Gana Gymru every year. And one of the presenters on Capital Cymru is actually a alumni of Gana Gymru, Alistair James. So he does breakfast, and then you've got a mid-morning show. You then got Kev Bach, who's been there since I think it was the old Champion 103. Presenting the afternoon shows, and then we've got a lovely lady called Kieran Griffith who does a show now and then. I think she does it on the weekends, but it's basically 12 hours of content, Welsh language content during the week. On the weekend they have the Vodafone Big Top 40, whereas on Capital South Wales is all English language content with drive time between 4 and 7. Yeah. Which is the local output.
And with the Vodafone Top 40.
And with the Vodafone Top 40 as well, yeah. I think, well, every capital station, Heart station, and has the Vodafone Top 40.
Every global station.
Yes, quite.
I remember when it used to be sponsored by Pepsi.
Now that's going a long way back, that is.
That was the Neil Fox era.
It was, yes.
All Radio 1 have different to their charts is the different presenting style.
Exactly.
The same type of music. It's the same chart basically, but they just rename it different.
Oh yes, yeah.
But it's not about the music, it's about the presenter.
That's it, I suppose. Yeah, and I mean every presenter in a sense is different.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And also, I like, what's his name? Yeah, there's a lot of great. My favorite things about the radio is when you sit in a studio and you just talk to the microphone, and
Yes. Oh, completely. And that's what I like about it. Going in every day, sitting in front of the mic and the desk, and talking about your life, and playing music in between, and what any things you can do to say about the songs. I mean, that's that's what I like to do on radio.
What was the first song you played on your? Have you done a show on Retro Sound?
I have, yes. The first song I played was Reminiscing by Little River Band.
What's the song that reminds you of Radio Sound, if you don't mind me asking?
The song that reminds me of Radio Sound, I think, has got to be Slade's Radio Wall of Sound.
Nice. Question for you. What is your favourite part about the job?
Do you know, I think, for me personally, my favourite part of the job has always been, I think if I had to say what was a favourite part of my job, it's basically meeting these people who I grew up listening to, people like Chris Moore, who I ended up working with, and Nick Wright. It's meeting these people. It's also an enormous privilege, I think, to be on any type of radio station nowadays, because, I mean, with Radio Glamorgan, it's because you can choose your own music. You can, you have free reign to do whatever you want on the radio. Remember, radio is always about expanding your imagination. It certainly has expanded my imagination when I've been on the air. I just love sitting in front of that mic, talking every day, and then trying to talk about the songs I play on air. So, like, if I were to play Annie Lennox's "Walking on Broken Glass," I'd come out of that song maybe saying, "Oh dear, oh no, oh dear me. I just hope she hasn't got any cut. Her feet haven't cut because of that glass. Oh dear, that is actually quite sore. Yes. But I wouldn't be recommending Walking on Broken Glass anytime soon, even if you are."
And what would you say, for example, what would you come out with Prince's Purple Rain with then, if you ever played that?
Well. Looks like the artist formerly known as Prince there thinks there's purple rain outside. Depending on what the day is, I'd say if it's raining, doesn't look purple to me. It looks quite bluey. Oh wait. Yep, it's dropping. Nope, there's no purple rain outside at the moment. Mind you, hardly. There's no rain at all. I mean, well, what are you expecting? I mean, come on. It's summer after all. We're not expecting rain in a long time. Well, the long time being tomorrow morning.
Do you ever do that on air? That mantra where you come out with songs and do a little jerk about it?
I do, yeah, but I think it depends on what song I'm playing and the song I know well. I mean, the fact of the matter is, with songs like that, you should always know your song. I mean,
Have you ever heard of Phil Collins' "Easy Lover"? Played that one?
haven't played that one in a long time.
So what, say for example, sorry, we're going off tangent here, everyone. What would you do if, say for example, if Phil Collins' Easy Lover came, if you had Phil Collins' Easy Lover on?
Well, is she an easy lover? Oh, I don't know. I've never really properly met her. I'd like to know what she's like. Go on, tell us what she's like. Nope, you're just going to sin about her all day? Oh, okay. That's your problem, not mine.
Good on you. Good song there.
Very good song, yes.
Because Phil Collins, I was told by a colleague of mine yesterday, was a big fan of Earth, Wind and Fire.
That probably explains why I got Phil Bailey on.
Yeah, and they duetted a song, but it's a shame Phil Collins has got arthritis nowadays.
Absolutely, yes.
Because what load of radio presenters every time put this podcast on a different podcast, they always say whenever they're in the car and Easy Lover comes on, they just turn it up.
Oh yeah, quite. I see their point.
And I was listening to Dr. Fox the other day, of a week, of a month, and he said that the drum kits were all arranged when Easy Lover came out, I think.
I see. Okay.
He said lots of his friends, I think, were banging the drum kits like Phil Collins.
Well, that's something I've never heard before.
Or it was something like that. I can't quite remember. But Easy Lover just makes me want to, if ever I drive a car very fast down the road.
That makes sense. Fair enough. Good for you, Ben.
Yeah. Question 4. How has COVID affected your line of work and life?
Well, it's a hard one, really, because I think COVID for many it's often questioned what was the purpose of radio, and that's what I think at the beginning, because I remember when we were told that we were going to have to go into lockdown, I was actually in the Millennium Centre the day that they announced all theatre venues were going to close, and that's because where Radio Platform was based. So, we all packed up, we packed our stuff, went home. Millennium Centre shut, and then it was kind of after that, well, what do we do now? And then Radio Glamorgan as well, because we're in the hospital, they had to shut the studio down to their volunteers, and it was a difficult few weeks to start off with. But I think during COVID we realized that we were actually part of something important, and radio at the time has actually never been more important in life, because I think it was a given, really, for radio. I mean, radio has been a lifeline during lockdown, and more people are now reaffirming themselves with the industry, and those who were, prepared to walk away are actually coming back in and saying, actually, do you know what? I want to be part of radio again. I want to sit in front of a mic. I want to talk about my life and talk about, the day-to-day things and all that. And it was fun during lockdown. I will be honest. And I know some people would say, it wasn't fun. It was real hard work, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time during lockdown and creating content and interviewing people and doing all of that.
That's good, and that's brilliant for you as well, making content. Did you go in the studio during the lockdowns?
I only went in. I only really went into Radio Platform during the main lockdown, and that was to sort out some emergency stuff. I mean, this was the thing, because we could go in when they started lifting restrictions, and then they put restrictions back in place, and then it was back to studio, and then we had another national lockdown, and lo and behold, since April or May time, I've been back in the studio, and it's been real fun, put it that way.
You don't have guests in the studio yet, then?
We don't have guests, no, and so if we were to do guests, we'd have to have them either over Zoom or Clean Feed.
That's fair enough, because we actually technically have had 3 national lockdowns.
We have, yes.
But the second one didn't really count because it wasn't a long lockdown.
No, it wasn't.
4 weeks.
Quite, yes.
And it wasn't really a proper lockdown because they didn't really shut buildings down. They were still letting people meet up.
They were, yeah, you're right there.
And that's why things get out of hand, because this government have no democracy or control. They just bypass, and not an attack on anything, bypass other politicians.
I know. But put it this way: I've got no. I always try and keep myself neutral on stuff like this.
Fair enough, and I know people who have had mental health issues this last year. You probably do as well.
I do, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to help people with mental health by raising awareness. That's all.
Well, you're doing a very good job, Ben. So good for you.
Thank you. Final question on my list, Luke, and thank you for joining me today as well.
Your pleasure, Ben. Yes.
What advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I mean, everyone would say that, simple, you just got to make the right contacts and or just keep hammering on doors. That is part of the agenda, but it's much more difficult than that. And I know what it's like, because I've been through the difficulties of trying to get into the industry. I've had countless rejection letters for work experience, for jobs there. It is very, very tricky. And I can remember being sent away because they said hospital radio wasn't really radio. And I just felt shocked by that, because I'd spent, I think it was at the time, 2 years on hospital radio. I was trying to work up my confidence to go for a job at Global in London, which backfired when they said hospital radio isn't really radio. And then, I've done work experience with Radio Wales. And this is where I was going to say about the opportunities, because you make contacts in places like Radio Wales, and that when you make contacts with people, keep getting onto them about getting you maybe more work experience in the industry. Or keep saying, just keep in touch with them all the time. Just say, I'm still keen to get in. What do I need to do? Because I missed that opportunity when I was at Radio Wales. I didn't contact them afterwards, and then I really regretted that, because part of me then had a phobia of, well, when does, and this is what people have told me, that there is no such thing as, you can't annoy people over it. I know that some people like me probably would think, do I really want to email them because I don't want to annoy them and them to have some sort of restraining order put on me? And I really regretted not doing that. I should have, 2 weeks after the work experience, just gone back to Radio Wales and said, I want more work. Please, can you just give me the worst job there is, and I'll do it. It is hard, and I commend anyone who's trying to get into the industry. And I know nowadays they're saying, you need a degree, you need a good education. Well, okay, there might be that. You might have gone to university, you might have done student radio, but what makes you any different to someone who maybe has done hospital radio, who, is trying every route to get into the industry? What makes you any different to that person who's trying their hardest to get in? I'd say any opportunity, go for it. Don't be afraid to say no. And if anything they offer you, just do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Luke, for joining me today. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me, Luke.
My pleasure, Ben, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, sir. You do join me again for another Chatterbox podcast very soon. But for now, please give it up for Luke Davis, aka Live Luke. Do join me again for another podcast very soon. But for now, I'm always going to say my end roll. That's a wrap.
That was my interview with Lou Clark. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry there haven't been much videos the last few days, been very busy. But my next upload will be with David Lloyd for Radio Legends episode 4, so yeah, please like, subscribe and all that. Thank you very much for watching, and that's a wrap.